The thing was just like, I sat there and I was like, okay, how many scholarships can I apply to? And then I asked my counselor, like, how many, is there like a limit? And he's like, no, there's no limit, you can apply to any scholarships. And I'm like, okay, well, if I can apply to any scholarship, like, I'll apply to as many as I can. And then you gotta remember, when you were applying to scholarship, a lot of those personal statements, I know, so how many of you guys have a personal statement already in place? Okay? A lot of those personal statements, you can just tweak them. You know what I'm talking about? You guys go to a scholarship and then it tells you, hey, I want you to talk about this and this. I look at my paragraphs, I'm like, okay, I've talked about this, and I just copy and paste and then just make sure everything flows better, add a few things that they want, and that sends them in. Okay, I get another scholarship, oh, I didn't want this one, I didn't want this. So I'm basically tweaking those personal statements consistently. So I make one, and once I have that one's just being tweaked. And that's basically what I did. I didn't sit there and say, okay, I applied for 10 scholarships, each one had a different personal statement. I got one personal statement, and I made sure that all the elements that every scholarship wanted were included, plus some extra stuff. And all of them require a little bit of your life experiences and, you know, other things that you had in your life, you know, which is something that you can easily talk about. But once I started applying, I applied to one, and like I never heard about one, but I didn't get discouraged, because that's going to be the biggest thing. If you start your junior or senior, you're going to get discouraged because you don't hear from them, and all of a sudden a deadline comes up, and they'll give you an email, sorry, thank you for applying, but yet you did not receive the scholarship. That didn't discourage me because I knew that I was running against a lot of students. But I knew that there was going to be scholarships that I wasn't going to run with a lot of kids. Okay? And I knew there were going to be scholarships that I was somehow going to intrigue the people that were reading it. Okay? Because we all have different ways of writing, different writing skills, different way of expressing ourselves. And what I can tell you might impact you, but might not impact someone else. And I understood that. So when I saw a scholarship and I had to say, okay, thank you for applying, but you did not receive it, I was just like, okay, that was just one scholarship, now I gotta look for the other one. So I would say that I applied to like 12, which I think you guys should all apply to more. But I applied to 12 scholarships, and I was fortunate enough to, out of the 12 scholarships, I got 8 out of 12. Okay, so it was if you calculate the probability of it, that's pretty high. That's very, very high. And I was very satisfied. And the nice thing about it was just I got the big scholarships. Like, you know, I applied for some, and some were like $500. And some of you guys are thinking, $500, I don't want to apply for that one. $500, when you're a college student, that means a lot. Like, $500 it's $500. Like, you know, you can get yourself a laptop with $500. Not the fanciest laptop, but as a student, all you need is, you know, you got to type it up, Excel, all this other stuff. You're going to need a laptop. And those were real things. Now, I was very fortunate enough to have got one, well, when I applied for a scholarship, it was a family called Myers family. Myers family is probably, I consider them my family now. That's like Myers family. They've been like really, really amazing people and an inspiration in me. Like every December, I go and speak to the upcoming college students that they get. Okay, because this is a family who is very, very fortunate. They have a lot of money. Some of them, I mean, their family runs from doctors, engineers, like that. I mean, one of them is part of our Senate, and like these people are like, you know, very, very wealthy. But they also want to give back to students. And the nice thing about it is they want to give back to the Phoenix Union High School District. They work in the Phoenix Union High School District. They used to work at Chavez, but they felt that they weren't ever appreciated. They felt like every time they came out, hey, you know what, do you know any students that are interested? They'd always be like, oh yeah, we'll call you back. And then they would have to constantly call back the administration, and they never called back. That was the last year that they did it, the year that I got that scholarship at Chavez. So they decided to transfer to Central High School, and right now they are currently at Central High School, and they're getting kids there. But at the moment, like, you know, when I heard about the Myers family, they said, get your top students in the school. And my counselor told me, hey, are you interested? You have to do application. It's a big process. You have to go through interviews and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I've already had, at that moment, I already knew I had won 5 scholarships. So I had already a full ride. And I thought about myself, do I really want to go through the process? And then I sat there and thought, like, I need an extra car. You know, I need to get from my house to work and move around. So I was like, you know, I was like, hey, if I were to have extra money, is it possible I can use the money to buy a car? And they're like, yeah, like that's educational purposes, because if you need to get from your house to the school, you need a car. So the scholarships are very lenient in how you use that money, because you need it. I mean, I bought myself iPads and all this other stuff. Like, I was pretty fancy, like, in the rooms and everything, because I was using it for educational purpose, but you all know that it wasn't always educational purposes. But I used it, okay, and I was successful. Now, all these scholarships obviously require for you to keep up your GPA in college. If not, you lose them. The Myers family, they put you on a probation, but, like, you know, it would be hard to lose it unless you really are, like, just not trying. They are they're very nice people, and I've known people who have the scholarship and they don't take advantage of it, and they're still constantly pushing them. Like, they strongly believe in you because if they chose you as a student to win that scholarship, they strongly believe in you. So they're just like your family mentoring you. Even though you can disappoint your family, your mom, your dad, they're always going to be pushing you, and that's who they are. They told me when I went to the interview, because that was one of the interviews, when I went into that interview, there was like, and it's a big family, they have like 6 daughters and like 7 sons and all that stuff. So they were all like, I went into a meeting and then they were all on the table, all spread around. So the first thing when I walked in, and I just walked in and I saw everybody and I'm just sitting there, I get really nervous, and then all of a sudden the camera just like, you know, I felt like a star for a second. But like the camera just showed up here and I'm sitting there like, whoa, like should I talk or like what do I say? And the first thing I thought is like my parents always taught me like good manners. And like, and this comes from like, you know, church and all that stuff. Like every time I come into a room where there's people, I should say hi to every single person, even if I don't know them. That was a natural instinct. So I'm like, this is too many people, I'm gonna go around. I was sitting there like, should I do it, should I not? But it was an instinct. I was like, okay, my mom taught me better. So I sit there and I go to every single person and go say hi and everything like that. And I sit down, and then I sit down and they start asking me a whole bunch of questions. That year, I was doing cross country, soccer, and all this other stuff, and I was taking AP Physics. I was getting a B+ in AP Physics, and he is like a tough professor. That's probably the hardest professor even that I've ever had. He was a good professor. Right now he teaches at Brophy. But he was a very tough professor. I had like the 3rd highest grade in that class, in the AP Physics class. And like, I always felt dumb. Like, you know, every time I asked him a question, he answered my question with a question. And this is what you guys are getting used to it. But I was a senior, I wasn't used to this. So like, if the professor asked me a question, I was asking you a question because I didn't know the answer. And now you're asking me with another question. And now I'm going to ask you another question. But I felt dumb. Okay, so I always felt dumb, but then once I saw the grades, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm still good, like, you know what I mean? But I was struggling. I was really struggling. I had a B+, but I was struggling. It was probably the most challenging class I've taken. And I sat there and I was just like, you know, this is a tough class. And then I literally was helping out in this graph in my 7th hour prep, and I wanted to focus on that. That's when, like, you know, teaching was kind of like, oh, maybe I do want to do it. So I was like, you know, I want to get rid of that AP Physics class. And I went to my counselor and said, hey, you know what, I want to finish my 1st semester with it, and then my 2nd semester I don't want to be enrolled in it. Well, the teacher called my mom and told them that I cannot enroll, so I was like, no, well, I've already made my decision. My counselor was like, well, in life, you can't just quit. And I'm just like, you know, I have a B+, it's not like a bad thing. She's like, yeah, but like, you might have just gotten a challenge and you don't want to challenge yourself. And I was just like, no, I just want to focus more on soccer, I want to focus more on this other thing. So we ended up having to meet with the principal, and then finally it got approved. Okay, so during that day, they had my transcripts, they had everything there. And one of the kids is like, so what happened to the AP Physics class? Why doesn't it show from your 1st semester to your 2nd semester? I'm sitting there like, oh my god, they know my stuff. I never thought it was gonna come and hunt me. So I was like sitting there like, I'm just like, oh, well, is that I thought this and this and that, and I'm like, so wasn't it too hard? Is that when you go to college? Is that what you're going to give? So they were just getting me that I'm just like having to answer after question, have to answer. So I was like nervous, and I was like, oh my god, like I don't know what to do now. And I was sitting there, it's just like, well, and then they asked me one thing. I was like, they're like, we've been doing this for 6 years. Every single student that we've had has not succeeded. They went to university and they dropped out. We have yet had a success story so far from every student. And we got one of the top kids, but they haven't been successful. So we're encouraging you that if we do ask you to come back and you are the person who wins the scholarship, would you, instead of going to university, can you go to college, community college? They asked me that. And I said, well, no. I was like, you can keep your scholarship, because I was like, I already know what I want to do. And I was like, I literally told them that, and they were just like, okay. I was like, no, I was like, if that's the case, then you guys can keep it, because like, I know that I want to go to university, and I have my goal set, and I know where I want to go, and I know who I am, and I know myself, and I know I'm going to, when I tell myself I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So I know that you perhaps have not had good experiences, but if you trust me and you give me that scholarship, I'll be the first success story. You know what I mean? I says, I will not, I will not disappoint you guys. And, and I went out there and they gave me just like, more questions about my life. And, I says, what if you didn't have the money, how would you pay? Would you stop going to college? And I was like, well, if I didn't have the money, then I would have to work to be able to pay for my classes. And they're like, well, it's a lot of money. And I'm just like, yeah, no, but then that means I would just be a part-time student, but I'll still keep working on it. And it was just it was like an hour, conversation. At the time when we had the interviews, only 5 students had the interviews. Because what they do is you submit the personal statement, the family gets together, they read all personal statements, there was 10 students, and then they narrow it down to 5 after the personal statements. Once you do the 5 personal statements, they have an interview. After the interview, they narrow it down to 3, and then they gave us a second interview. Okay, and the second interview went smoother because now I felt like I was like, at least in the top 3, so I felt like it wasn't too bad. They weren't holding it accountable. But I think one of the kids, our son that was there, he was really harsh on me. I thought he was really harsh, especially on the physics class, and I didn't feel like he was a fan of me, and he didn't think I could accomplish it and stuff like that. But I was okay with it because I was like, there's always going to be someone who's going to be like, I don't think he's going to succeed, etc. I was used to that because I had a lot of people who doubted me. But I knew that in life, as long as you don't doubt yourself, that's all that matters. Like, you know what I mean? Anybody can doubt yourself. As long as you don't doubt yourself, you can always prove them all wrong. And I always saw it that way. So I didn't think he was a fan of me, especially on the second interview. And finally, like the 3 of us, and we were all friends because we all had honors class and AP classes, they told us that, they asked us what time school was over and that they was going to give us a call. So we're sitting there waiting for the call, and then all of a sudden someone's phone rang, and I was like, okay. So someone rang, and they're like picking it up, and we're sitting there looking at her like, what did it say? And then these like sad faces. We were happy, but we were sad. If they had a sad face, that meant like we got the scholarship. So then so we're sitting there, and it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, but really deep inside, like, I still have a chance. So then I was like, okay. So then now it's between me and him, and then like he gets a call, and at the same time, I think the wife called him and the husband called me, and then like he's talking and I'm talking, then we just kind of split up. And then happens to be that he couldn't decide, so decided on both of us. Okay, but they said that one of them was gonna have the more money than the other. Okay, and it happened to be that I got the most money. Okay, so I was very, very happy. And then they sat me down and told me why I had won it. And then the first thing that they said was, what distinguished you from every single other person is when you walked in and you said hi to every single person, you shook their hand. You know what I mean? That to us told us he has been raised in a way that we knew you were going to be successful. Like, you know what I mean? And it's just like such a little thing that I felt made such a big difference in my life. That moment when I thought, should I do it, should I not? It's like, oh, my mom taught me better, let me go do it. Okay, that instinct that I made that decision, that impacted my life. Because from there on, like, I had all that money, but not just that, but it showcased that, my parents did a great job because they were the reasons why I got that scholarship. Maybe I would have got it second if I would have done that. But that was such a big thing, and to them that was a little thing that they said no one has done it, and the fact that you did it, there's something different. There's something different. And like this family was, I have other families who have done it, and I had friends who have done it. But this family was so engaged while I was going to school. Like literally, like it was like I think my second semester I was like stressing out. I was stressing out, and I'm sitting there like I don't have a laptop. I don't know how to manage my money very well because I was like a sophomore. So I spent a little bit too much money. Then I have money for my laptop. So I'm sitting there like, and they already giving me a lot of money. So I'm sitting there like stressing out. So I have to stay at school. Like seriously, I would sleep at the library sometimes. Like I would sleep in the library, wake up, go to my classes in the morning. And I'm not a morning person. I don't know how in the world I became a teacher. But when I was at Chavez, I was most likely to be late to their own funeral, right? In the yearbook. Because I was always late to my first hour class. So then I asked Ms. Graff, and this is the reason why I'm meeting Ms. Graff. I asked her if I can transfer to her first hour class because math to me came so easy, and like she was okay for me being 5 minutes late, and then I could still get an A in her class. So it just made sense. But like when that happened, like I asked them, I told them, hey, I'm struggling. I'm staying after school constantly until 10 p.m. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay, like, they just talked to me and told me, like, you know what I mean, that's college life, stay focused, whatever. Then in the mail I get like a big case and it says Myers family, and then I get a nice laptop, like, I'm just like, oh, thank you. Then like I'm just like, thank you, appreciate it. Then I went every December. They have a little thing to get together. They give you breakfast. You go in there and then they just ask you how you're doing. You know, in college, you talk about what your life experience, what your struggles and everything. And every single time that I came in there, like I always walk out with $500-600. I mean, I came in there. There's like, oh, here's one of the sons $100. The other son is $200. The main person's like $200. Thank you here. I mean, when I got my house, because when I graduated, when I got my house, I seriously went, but this is to give a speech after I graduated, because I was their first success story, like exactly how I told them. And they were super excited for me to mentor and talk to the other students who live in there. And like, when I told them that, they're sitting there like, they had like couches, they had like lamps, and they're like, here, take this. They're like filling me up with like a whole bunch of like pillows, and because they had realized that I just got a house, so they just wanted to give me everything in their house so that I could fill in my house. You know what I mean? It's just like genuinely, they're very, very nice people. Very kind people. They were like, okay, you just finished you just got your house, here's $1,000 so you can get whatever you need on your house. Like, you know what I mean? They are just kind people, and they were super excited for me to have graduated. They were in my graduation. My family did since I was the first in my family to graduate, they did this big thing. You know what I mean? They had a hall, and then I was there in the hall and everything like that. And they even showed up there. I gave them an invitation. I didn't think they were going to because they're busy people, but they showed up and they were there. They gave me they gave me a little present and stuff like that, and just said it was like it was things engraved and saying like your success story and thank you for what I gave to them. And I'm just like, I never gave you anything. Like, you gave me everything that I did and everything I accomplished. But to them was just like, to them it's like their money was worth it. You know what I mean? They spent their money for the first time. They felt like, someone showed up and accomplished. And to them it's like, you coming back every single time has given more success stories to our program. Because there's the Myers family, they work through this district and stuff like that, and they've had more success story. After me, they've had like some of the students that graduated, like the student who was second behind me, he graduated as a nurse from GCU, so he's their nurse now. One of the girls from Chavez there, that was the secretary's daughter, she also got one of the scholarships a year after that. And when I went in this December, she had also won the scholarship, and she had also graduated from university too. So they had a lot more success stories, and they feel like it attributed to having someone come back and explain to them what it is to be in college, the things that you're going to have to accomplish. And a lot of it comes down to preparing yourself, time management, all these other things. It's so important, because when I went into college and I'm sitting there and I'm trying to do classes, it's a 300. Like you guys all, I don't know if you guys been through a lot of trips to different universities. I know Avid is going back and forth, but I mean some of those classes are 300 students. The teacher never gets to know your name, and that's tough. Okay, you guys, if your teacher never gets to know your name, you're sitting there and you're like, well, how do I know what to do? You guys are used to asking multiple questions, getting your questions answered. Well, that's not the case anymore. So now it's like I feel like you're on your own, and then you're sitting there. It's like, well, how do I become successful? And that really comes down to you. How well did you prepare yourself to be successful on your own? I mean, obviously they have office hours, okay? And trust me, I was in every single office hour. I mean, the professor knew who I was. And those are the little things that you'll do and then you'll accomplish to be successful, okay? And then it comes down to scholarships. That I have so many friends who were incredibly smart, but they dropped out because they had to work, and they couldn't find the time to be able to succeed in education, like in their classes, and be able to work at the same time. And then they had kids and all this other stuff. So that's all other things that are factors to your success. And I felt like I had my priorities straight, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I allowed that to gear, and be able to take me to where I wanted to do. And I mean, now it's like, this November 28th, this month, I finished my master's. So I'm excited in admin. And that too is also getting paid, because Phoenix Union here, if you're teaching at a low-income Title I school and you don't have no other loans, and you basically have no other loans, they pay your master's basically. So they didn't pay exactly everything. There's $21,000 that the master was, and they paid $18,000 of it. So it's only $3,000. I mean, out of bachelor's and a master's and only pay $3,000 out of my pocket, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think, personally.
That's like community college.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like, you know what I mean, I went to have my bachelor's and my master's and only paid $3,000. I mean, those $3,000 are still money that I saved up from all